Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Manchester United Sevilla round of 16 Champions League second leg at Old Trafford. Would Manchester United prove that they belong amongst Europe's elite? Would Sevilla finally get out of the round of 16 stage? Who would United rely on and how would they approach the game after stifling Liverpool's great attack last weekend in the Premier League? How would they do it? Who would win? What would be the main factor and who would be the difference maker? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, I'm going to briefly break down Manchester United against Sevilla. So Manchester United Sevilla, second leg of the Champions League round of 16 at Old Trafford. Manchester United coming off a big win against Liverpool. Would they be able to replicate that? How would they do it? Or would they stumble out of the competition? Would this be the shock of the round? We look at the board. We got Manchester United in the red. We got Sevilla in the blue. Manchester United going a different route this game, playing more of a 4-1-4-1. Lukaku up front, Alexis Sanchez and Marcus Rashford on the flanks. And ahead of Nemanja Matic, you had Jesse Lingard and Marouane Fellaini. Sevilla went still with the 4-2-3-1, no real changes here. Muriel started up front. They had Sarabia, they had Vasquez, and they had Correa in behind them. And in midfield, they had Banega and Nzonzi. What went right? What went wrong? What were the main talking points? Well, we have to look at United's shape. That was the big thing here in this match. Scott McTominay wasn't included. Jose Mourinho and Manchester United were rightfully criticized here because they played a bit too negative. They didn't go for the game at home at Old Trafford where you expect them to win. You look at it here, perhaps they could have used McTominay because what Sevilla did very good is that from an offensive standpoint is that Matic, once again, overran in midfield. That was key, and that led to a lot of the issues that they had around their box. When you look at what they were doing from a defensive aspect, you had Lukaku pressing well. You obviously had Sanchez and Rashford working hard to close down Mercado and Escudero. But when you look at what Lingard and Fellaini did to Nzonzi and Banega, who were the standout players on the game, bossed the midfield, showed the combination of athleticism, calm passing, the ability to dictate the tempo of the game. They did everything in that central zone, and Lingard and Fellaini had no idea how to stop them. They never got close to them, never really tries to impose their authority, and when they try to, Nzonzi just shrugging off opponents, playing confident passes, Banega given the time to play the passes that he wanted to. So what happened is that even if they did get close, which they did, not to say that they stood off them, but they got close but weren't really in their face, never really aimed to cut off the passing lanes. They were just there. That left Matic here in a wide ocean, so much space to cover. And what happened? Well, one player would drift in there, one player would drift in there. If one stayed wide, Vasquez would drift in there. There was so much space for Sevilla players to pick up the ball. At times, Muriel was drifting in there. So United's defense really didn't know how to cope, how to pick up markers. And what had happened was that they were overrun all over the place. What saved them, like it did in the first leg, was the fact that Muriel is not the greatest finisher in the world, and Correa's finishing isn't any better. So they didn't really have a prolific striker or a ruthless finisher that could get the job done, force the hit into any real significant saves. But what would happen was that they were just getting overrun in midfield. Valencia was trying to stick to Correa, but when he stuck to Correa, Muriel would drift out there, and vice versa. There were times where they both swapped flanks and Correa was playing through the middle. But the fact was that United couldn't drag players across the pitch. If you drag one across the pitch, then Vasquez can move over there because Matic can't leave that zone. And they weren't willing to really go man-to-man in those areas. As much as Valencia wanted to, it did lead to some issues throughout the game in spells, and that was pivotal. What also helped Sevilla was the fact that they dropped deep into two narrow banks of four, and they varied the way that they really pressed and approached the game, and they were just as organized. But the fact was, you had Muriel or Vasquez on Matic. You had Nzonzi and Banega on Lingard and Fellaini. You had the wide players very narrow, so that even when Alexis and Rashford got on the ball, it wasn't a problem. But the issue there as well was that Alexis is looking to come in. Rashford is looking to come in. the fullbacks weren't really getting forward. And even if they do, Valencia is looking to cut into that area. I mean, Young is looking to cut into that area. Valencia didn't really get forward because of the counter-attacking threat of Correa. And when you look at it, it was just bogged. Everything was going through the center of the pitch. No direct wide player that could deliver crosses into the box. That was a big issue. And it was easy for Sevilla. Just sit a bit deeper, stay very narrow, and United would run into each other or run into avenues where they couldn't get passes off, and the intricate passes weren't really going. So that was one aspect of looking at it. The other aspect was that when we get these wide players back into their position, push them up a bit forward. The other aspect of it was the fact that they try to get Fellaini a bit forward. They try to win aerial duels. They try to play long balls over the top. Lukaku often was on an island, and he did well in certain phases to really shrug off defenders, but there was no real support. They never really won the second ball. Fellaini, for all of the aerial presence that he has, he never really nodded on the ball to teammates to really get them into positions. There was one time where he did to Alexis Sanchez, who cut in and then lost the ball. But United didn't really have an attacking plan going forward. Long balls into Lukaku didn't work. Teammates weren't getting into him. Alexis trying to cut in didn't work. No width. Fellaini trying to get forward to support didn't offer the support. And the countering to that was that it still left Matic with so much space to cover. All they had to do was win the ball back, get their wide players to come in narrow. There was so much space for Sevilla to exploit. But Sevilla's only two great chances came from the other aspect that they did very well, was they pressed from the front. And the front four pressed very well. And basically one chance led to Eric Bailly playing a tame effort, and the ball went to Correa, played it into Muriel, shot it over the net. The second opportunity, we saw Rashford in his half give away the ball. And then we saw Vasquez and Sarabia combine, which led to Muriel getting another chance, dragging it wide of the net. But besides that, there was no real threat from Sevilla, despite them pressing well from the front, despite them not allowing United to really get forward. Because when they pressed from the front, it was basically this. One goes there, one goes there. They were fine with the center backs having the ball. They would have Muriel press them, and they were bogged in. Simple as that. No real danger there. United struggled in that avenue as well. The second half comes along. What changes? Well, we saw more of a counter-attacking threat from Sevilla in the second half. And why was that? It was because Young was now instructed to push forward. Valencia was now instructed to push forward a bit. And there was more issues that they encountered. You look at just the first few minutes, and it kind of summed up why they couldn't man mark. You look at it from this aspect, is that they break on the counter. What happens is that Valencia follows Correa. Ball's played out to the left for Sarabia after. Valencia follows him. Ball, you see Correa continue his run into the box. Ball played into him there. Correa gets onto it. What happens is that Eric Bailly ends up making a last-ditch tackle to really save the issue. But it's just the fact that there was space down the flanks behind Young, and Zanzi was obviously able to play his pass. Valencia followed Correa, but then couldn't keep up with him and didn't track his run. No one else tracked the run. Able to break free into the box, cross in there. Luckily, Correa couldn't control the ball properly, stumbled, got it, gained a yard on a marker, but then couldn't fire the shot past the keeper because Bailly came through. And when you look at the other chances that they created, they had so much space to really hit them on the counter. United did have a spell where they did get forward. You look at Lukaku poking the ball into Lingard, and he forced Rico into a save. They took off Fellaini, and they brought on Pogba. That really helped as well, because Pogba forced a save out of Sergio Rico, gained the yard on his marker, and then forced a save. But the game really was following that template where United were trying to push men forward. You saw Alexis cutting in and constantly switching the ball to Rashford. The chance where Alexis forced a block, Sevilla came the other way and almost scored. But what really changed the game was the fact that they brought on Ben Yedder. Didn't play the first leg, much better striker. And he's their leading goal scorer, much better finisher than Muriel. And we don't know if Muriel would have finished this opportunity if it came to him. How did that arise? Well, again, it goes down to the pressing. The pressing from the front. They bogged them in. And again, you have to look at it from that aspect where they tried to switch, before that, they tried to switch Alexis and Rashford to swap opposite flanks to get something different. That didn't work out as well. Escudero steps ahead, dispossesses Alexis. What happens is that Vasquez and Matic go for the loose ball. Vasquez gets ahead of it, plays it into Banega, who is free to play a pass into Sarabia. Again, just simple. Moving into that space. Young's not going to go with him. Matic is already pulled out. Gets the ball there. Slides it in to Yedder, who runs across his marker and fires a superb shot past David De Gea. 1-0. They score not too many minutes after that. Yedder scored 2 goals in 5 minutes. Just another poacher's goal that you wouldn't get from Muriel. 2-0 off a set piece where everyone went to sleep. How does Correa get a near post header with 2 players on him ball watching? Lukaku's ball watching at the far post. Poor defending from Manchester United. They do pull a goal back from Lukaku. They brought on Martial. They brought on Mata. Mata had a cross that was cleared by Longley that Lukaku probably could have scored. Martial had an opportunity where Lukaku played him in half space. He pulls it back. The Sevilla defense was there. You look at the chances that Sevilla had on the counterattack. Correa down the left channel, an overlap from Correa on Vasquez, should have scored there as well. Then the Banega chance that sends Yedder in free in the 90th minute should score there. 1-1 with De Gea. De Gea makes the save. But when you break it all down, yes, you can criticize Mourinho for the fact that they were a bit too defensive, but they needed another player there in Scott McTominay. What you can't defend Mourinho for is the fact that they didn't have an attacking plan, that the decision to play long didn't really work out. They didn't press well. There was no energy. Sevilla did 3 things very well. 1, they exploited space behind Matic. They pressed well from the front. They pressed well as a unit narrowly at the back. Their poor finishing was made up by the fact that Montella brought on Ben Yedder and won the tie in that aspect. But in a game where 2 sides that aren't very good and don't look like Champions League contenders, it came down to fine margins. It came down to Sevilla being more organized, offering more variety without the ball, having their playmakers, having players that are comfortable on the ball to dictate the tempo of the game, and having an option that they could bring on a forward and have the coach make a change and a key moment of a Champions League tie to separate the tie. And that's how you look at it. It's a failure for Mourinho. Manchester United knocked out the competition. You expect more from them at Old Trafford, and now we'll see what happens from here, but it's not looking good for the Red Devils. It's not looking good for Mourinho. But let me know what you guys think. Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.